Okay, good evening. I'd like to call tonight's regular meeting of the Lee County Board of Commissioners to order. Thank you for coming out tonight. We've got a full house. At this time, I'd like to call on Commissioner Kevin Dodson to offer invocation and lead us in the pledge, please.
Lord, thank you for this day today. Thank you for this opportunity to come together and dispatch business here in Lee County. Just ask that you lead, guide, and direct us commissioners up here as we conduct business, and just give us the wisdom and the guidance and the direction that we need. And I pray all this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. All right, at this time, are there any additional items to the agenda?
Madam Chair, I'd like to add a couple things. There's one, the old business, I'd like to add vote for public hearing on the fire tax district to be held on June 4th. And all items I'd like to add to the new business. Request for utility easement at W.B. Wicker. Acceptance of the J.C. Hut at Kiwanis Children Park.
Can you repeat the last two, Commissioner Odom?
Request for utility easement at W.B. Wicker. And acceptance of the J.C. Hut at Kiwanis Children Park.
Thank you. All right, any other additional items? Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. All right, approval of consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve tonight's consent agenda.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, our public hearings begin on page 30 of your monumental agenda. And we bring Ms. McNeil. Are you here tonight? Just a request, if possible, is there a way to summarize, without reading, or do we have to read all of it for public record?
I can keep it short and sweet if you prefer.
That'd be great, because I think we'd like to get out of here while it's still the May 21st. Thank you, ma'am. There you go.
Not quite showing the entire parcel, but there are maps in your agenda, and I believe we know where this is located. Good evening, Lee County Commissioners, Lee County Planning Board, and staff. As you may recall, the site was originally proposed to be rezoned to General Commercial C2 at a public hearing held last month. Due to the concerns expressed by the adjoining property owners, the applicant withdrew the original rezoning request and has resubmitted a conditional rezoning request that basically maintains the current residential zoning district and adds only one additional use to be permitted, and that would be a public school. Because it is conditional zoning, there's also a conceptual site plan and architectural elevations that accompany this conditional rezoning request. And the list of permitted uses for the residential zoning districts is included in your agenda. Do you have any questions?
Anybody have any questions? Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Thank you. Okay. At this time, I'll open the public hearing on the zoning amendment rezoning request for the 2 tracts of land off Harvey Falk Road. Is there anyone to speak in favor? Hello again.
Hello.
Good evening.
Madam Chairman, Commissioners, thank you. I'm gonna be brief because I understand the scenario. But my name is Justin Smith. I'm the Managing Director of Ascend Leadership Academy. I'm here today in favor, obviously, of the rezoning. I just wanted to reiterate our process and that we have hit our enrollment goals. We're on pace to welcome 160 students from both Lee and Harnett County to our school in August. This is the next step, or the last step in the process for our facility that we need to get done. I did want to reiterate the importance of this specific location is because our intention and our goal of our board of directors is to attract students from both Lee and Harnett County. As of right now, we have about 60% of our students coming from Lee County, about 40% coming from Harnett County, and the location on Harvey Falk Road is ideal so that it's reasonable for students to get there from both counties. We made the decision to withdraw the application after the meeting last month. After hearing what the neighbors had to say and some of their concerns, our goal obviously was to work with the neighbors and to be a good neighbor to them. So we heard their concerns, listened to them, and we did our best to meet those needs. And that's why we're back here this month reapplying for the conditional zoning. Again, our community support is there. As you can see at our last meeting, we had a lot of parents speak. I did not ask them to come tonight because I knew the length of your agenda, and I knew you remembered them from last time and can remember what their sentiment was. And also, there's a particular singing competition that's this afternoon that a lot of our families are involved in as well. So we had all those things going on, but the support is still there, and the community members and the parents and families still are very, very much invested in the school and want to see it come to fruition. And again, I just want to reiterate that our goal obviously is to work with the families and work with the commissioners to provide not only a school for this community and a different option for families in the community, but also work with our neighbors to be good neighbors to them and to meet their needs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate it. Anyone else to speak in favor?
I'm Steve Malloy. I live at 2615 Bel Air Drive in Sanford. First of all, I'd like to apologize to y'all for my noisy entrance into your budget meeting earlier. Sorry about that. And then I just want to mention a couple quick things, like I said last time, that it appears I've looked it up and found several studies, including a study done about charter schools, that indicated that school being located next to a school has basically no effect on property values, so the school will not hurt property values in the area. The second thing is, if the school doesn't go there, the usages that I've been contacted about there are apartments and industrial type uses, and at least it would seem to me a school is a better choice for the neighbors. And last thing, I think the developer has bent over backwards to really try to make it so it fits with what the neighbors were looking for.
Thank you, Mr. Malloy. Okay, anyone to speak against? Okay, I declare this public hearing concluded. And at this time, just thank our planning board members for being here. And I really apologize for the mix-up in your meeting place, but I think we've got things situated. So you've got a good air-conditioned place to be. Thank you. Thank you. As always, we've got a lot going on. Yeah. Okay. All right, is there any public comments? No public comments, okay? Okay, at this time, I'd like to call on Ms. Victoria Witt for a presentation on our Sand Hills Center request. Good evening. Good to see you again.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much. I'm Victoria Witt. I'm the CEO of Sand Hills Center. I'm here tonight to submit to you our request for county general funding. You should have that in your packet. As you know, I come around about once a year to make this request to you. Before I start, I would like to once again thank Commissioner Dodson, who serves on the Sand Hills Center board. The other Lee County representative on the Sand Hills Center board is Walter Ferguson. I appreciate the county commissioners identifying and appointing these two representatives. I want to assure you that Lee County is well represented. You had the letter from the board. I will note that on March the 13th, our board did meet and made the decision for the 14th year in a row not to request any additional funding from any of our 9 counties. So that means I'm here tonight to request the same amount we've always requested, which is the $240,000. We'll remind you that all of that funding stays right here in Lee County. It goes to the support of the Daymart clinic right across the parking lot. Would also like to take just a few minutes to update you on some other activities. As you recall, in December of 2012, Sandhill Center took on the management of Medicaid funding for behavioral health services in our 9-county catchment area. As a result of that, we have realized savings from the management of the Medicaid dollar. You will remember that part of the deal, so to speak, with the state and the federal government is that a managed care company, any savings that they realize from the management is kept. The good thing about us being a public entity and a public managed care entity is those funds have to be reinvested into the community. We felt a couple of years ago that it was time to start making these reinvestments. I've had numerous meetings with the county commissioners in each of our counties and the county managers to identify where the gaps are in your community so we can provide funding to address some of those gaps. I want to take just a few minutes to go over some of the things that we have done here in Lee County, and also to remind you that these funds are available, and I would like to continue those discussions with the county commissioners and the county managers on other ways to use the funding. But let me just go real quickly over the activities that we are funding here. We have worked with your health department by co-locating a therapist at the health department so that folks that are accessing those services or in need of behavioral health services don't have to go to 2 places. They can get all of their services at that one location. We also have worked with your DSS to provide funding for guardianship, especially for folks that they are the guardian of that have more severe behavioral health needs. We have provided CIT training here, crisis intervention training, and we're getting ready to do an 8-hour refresher course on June the 25th. What we've learned is once we train all the officers, we like to go back and do refresher updates for the folks, and Lee County is one of the first refresher classes that we're going to be providing. We serve on many of your community engagement committees. We are a member of the Lee County Project Lazarus and have been a member since 2014. We are on your steering committee for your opioid community forums. We attended the April 5th one, and there's another one coming up this Thursday that we will be participating in. We are a member of the Lee Can Mental Health Partners Task Force, which is designed around reducing stigma of behavioral health and promoting the need for behavioral health treatment. We also co-sponsor the NAMI Cumberland, is the NAMI chapter of Cumberland, Harnett, and Lee County, and we are working with them now on some training on 911 calls to help train folks on what kind of information needs to be relayed on the 911 calls in order to access effective services. We are a member of your S3 Housing Connect network, which works with the homeless. and we are a member of the Lee County Project Safe Neighborhoods, which I believe some of you serve on that committee, and that is directed at reducing gang crime and gun violence. We also worked with the Lee County Schools. We have just recently provided training in a new testing tool called the Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale, where kids take the scale or rate it on the scale to determine any risk for suicide. 2 of your county employees have just completed the mental health first aid class and will now become the trainers. This is kind of a layman's class similar to CIT, but for the layman around recognizing and dealing with behavioral health issues. And we also partner with Division of Juvenile Justice, DSS, mental health providers, school staff, and parents to do training as part of the System of Care initiative. Lastly, I would like to mention that after the last meeting, your manager reached out to me, and we are currently working with Brick Capital, the community development initiative you have here. Kate Rumley, who is the CEO of that group, had reached out to your county manager about the folks that are in the apartments that she is managing having behavioral health issues. So we were able to partner with her and provide a 16 hours a week professional case manager to be on site to assist her with not only behavioral health needs, but also directing the residents in employment opportunities, and also just kind of helping free her up to do the administrative task so that this person that we are providing 16 hours a week actually works with the residents in helping them access services. Those are the initiatives. Once again, we are open to more discussions about many more. Also in your packet, you have the dashboard, which I always provide you, that shows services received by Lee County residents, comparison of the 9 counties, and then you have our annual report and our quarterly report. I will not go through those. I'm sure you'll get to those in your leisure time. I will stop there and see if you have any questions about our budget request or anything else about Sand Hill Center.
I've got one on, and I can't find the page now, but it dealt with budget request. It was Moore County, and I saw the asterisk, double asterisk.
Right.
What exactly are they doing there?
What that's about, several years ago, kind of predates me, the county and the management of Sand Hills at that time decided to flow through Sand Hills funding of nonprofits. How that was decided, I don't know, but there were 6 who were picked for the funding to flow through. Several years ago, Moore County made the decision to not fund nonprofits any longer. So over the past 3 years, they have been reducing the amount. So when I present to them, I not only present our request, but also included the nonprofits request. So what that shows is that they are now reducing it further. And in fact, next year, the county commissioners will reduce all of that funding. So we acted as a flow-through entity for those 6 nonprofits.
So what would that reduce Moore's contribution to?
That was always removed. Well, it would reduce it. I think I showed that. It reduced it to the 2.63. That's already figured in.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The, just for some clarification, the mental health first aid class that you were talking about, you said 2 had completed it. Is that Lee County school staff?
If I could, it's Lee County, county staff.
Oh, okay, county staff, okay.
It's, a lot of your staff had gone through the training, but two stepped up and wanted to become trainers.
Okay.
I can let you know who those
Okay.
folks
Okay.
are.
Okay,
But now they will be qualified to train in-house.
okay, that was, I was just, we went from the Lee County Schools with the suicide
Right,
survey.
right.
I was just getting a clarification there. Okay, anything else? Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
partnership with us, and especially with the opioid
Thank you.
forums. Thank you. All right, moving right along to the recommended budget presentation with Mr. Crumpton.
Mr. Silverman's bringing up the PowerPoints.
That's gonna take a while.
That's what this is all about, right? And thank Michael for putting this together for me
Yes.
today. So it was very helpful. So it's my pleasure to introduce the FY 2018-19 recommended budget. The budget goals that we discussed back at the budget kickoff in January was to maintain the current property tax rate and bring the Wicker School bond debt and future operational expenses into the budget without a tax rate impact. Continue to invest in county staff and technology, and address economic development issues and continued growth and investments in our community. The total budget for the coming year as recommended is $75,094,325. That's an increase of $3,897,017, and it maintains the tax rate at 79.5 cents. So the next slide on page 4 is the breakdown of projected revenues. 57.4% of our revenues come from the ad valorem property taxes, 19.7% comes from sales taxes, or 77.11% of the county's budget comes from these two sources. So each year you can see small incremental increases that we're becoming more and more dependent on those two types of revenue and less dependent on intergovernmental revenues in particular that come from the state and the feds to help mainly human services. So I'll show you a slide in a few minutes that will show you that even though human services expenses really haven't gone up a lot over the years, what they reimburse us has gone down. So the impact is on the revenue side from them, not the expenditure side. This slide just shows the consistent growth in our tax base from really starting in 2010-11 till now. This year's growth is 2.4%, which 2% has been about our average for the last few years. So that shows consistent positive growth. And then this slide, a variation of this slide was presented to the City Council and has been quite a bit of discussion about the growth in our sales tax revenues. And you can see back in 2009, 2010, before the introduction of the quarter-cent sales tax, our sales tax receipts were just a little bit below $8 million. And in the coming year, we're projecting to be over $14 million. So quite a bit of growth there. Some of it has to do with just the natural growth in the county, which over the last 3 to 4 years has been averaging 6-7%. And then some of it also is the change in the sales tax distribution method to the ad valorem basis. So it has helped us quite a bit. And when you'll see in a few minutes, we have used that money basically to fund our initiatives. So the next slide is the fund balance slide. We're projecting at the end of the current fiscal year that our fund balance will go down about $500,000. Main contributors to that are land purchases near the courthouse and Sandlin Park. But even with the decline, our fund balance percentage should remain over 19%, which is above our minimum of the new policy of 16% and below the maximum of 24%. You can see here a trend in fund balance appropriated. We're up a little bit over last year's original amount, but still well below what we needed in 2013 and 14 and 14 and 15 to balance the budget. So we're watching the amount of fund balance that we appropriate to balance. If we don't add anything during the year, we should add to the fund balance. But if we find things that come up and that we need to address, typically that will cause our fund balance to go down. Here's a general fund summary from 2018 to 2019. You can see the tax base increased to $5,391,000,000. The tax rate stays the same. It generates tax revenue of a little over $43 million for the coming year. 1 penny now generates $534,000. And then you can see the sales tax number and our total budget year on year. So where does the money go? Between education and debt service, you have about $34 million. Then the next biggest budget is health and welfare, then public service, and then general government. So those are the big areas of the of the budget and where our money's going. So there was a lot of talk about growth in our budget. In this slide here, the left side is expenditures, and the right side is the 3 columns on the far right are revenues. So we're trying to show here where our expenditures have gone over the last 10 years. And also, I handed this out to you, this sheet here. This shows where the growth is next year. But if you go to the following 2 sheets, there's a breakdown on the first sheet of increases over the last 10 years for the school, and I lumped the college in there with it, current expense and capital outlay, and debt service. So the budget has risen about $15 million in that 10 years, and 51% of it is related to school, college, current capital outlay, and debt service. And so since 95% of our debt is for schools, it's a pretty good argument that over that 10 years, this board and previous boards have made quite an investment in Lee County schools. The next sheet shows where the remaining 49% goes, and it was kind of an eye-opener for us to look and see that general government made up 20% of that growth. It wasn't such a surprise to see what public safety had done, which is only almost 25% of the growth. But in general government, most of that investment was in technology, because the biggest increases were in IT and tax, as we were making investments in their technology. And when you think about what technology has done over the last 10 years, just to keep up, we've spent a considerable amount of money. And the last couple of years with the investments we've made in tax, that's a pretty big number. So it was interesting. I forgot to total the revenues down here, but if you look at the total of the amount of change of $15,230,000, the increase in our property taxes and sales taxes and the decrease in human services revenue is $15 million. So when others say you have money to spend, this sheet tells you you do not, because we already spent it once. You can't spend it twice. The next slide is the Lee County School System budget analysis. We started this a few years ago to show the board the investments that you're making in our K-12 system as a percent of our total budget. And you can see quite a bit of growth, but as a percentage of our budget, that amount has pretty much stayed the same as the budget has grown. So we were at 38% in 2012, and we're at 37% today. The next sheet, I want to thank Michael for doing this sheet, but we wanted to take a look and see what the 1% supplement increase has done for the last 3 years. So we've gone from a 7% supplement with the school system till 10. And you can see that in 2015, our average teacher supplement was $2,911. And over the next 3 budgets, that increased $1,479 to $4,390 and ranks us second in the 4 counties in this area. And so we have a long way to go if we wanted to catch Chatham, but to be ahead of Moore County in that number is, I think, a pretty big accomplishment and helps our school system stay competitive with teacher pay. So your investment did what it was intended to do. That's what that slide shows. So this is just a slide showing this page 14, this is just a slide showing current expense and capital outlay growth over the years for the school system. This next slide is a new slide. It shows the impact of debt service for education on the budget. And as a percent of our budget this year, debt service won't be over 15%. We have a policy that it won't go over 15%. So next year, it will be back down below 15%. So we have a 1 year where it's over 15%. And so then the budget, the payback goes pretty quickly paying it down. The next education piece is Central Carolina Community College, and as we stated last week, you can see that they were a giver back to the county. They asked for 124, or ended up working out to $124,205 less than what they're giving this year. Most of that decrease had to do with one-time capital appropriations for moving equipment and that kind of thing for moving out to the industrial park and out of the Wicker School. And even with that number, we were able to put the $125,000 in there for the K-14 initiative. So they're still down.
I ask a question about that moving expense.
Yes, sir.
Just out of curiosity, when they moved those units, was that done by a special group or was it out to bid?
Yes, sir. They put it out to bid, and the company that did it specializes in that type of moves, because I know they had trouble getting bids for it.
Okay.
This is just a graph showing the current expense funding that has grown, and if you were at the grand opening last week, and you look around and you see all the facilities out there, you know why, because that's community college funding is different than the K-12 system funding, and we don't fund anything that's going on in the classroom, no teachers, anything like that. So this is all just to operate the facilities and maintain the facilities. There are custodial people in that what we fund, but other than that, that's really the only personnel we fund out of that group. So here are some summaries of county government expenditures. 2% COLA, health insurance increased by 13.8%. There were 19 positions requested. I think last week I said 20, and I was corrected by Ms. Minter. I don't know how I got 20, but it was 19. We went back through it. And then there were 5 positions recommended. Staff development specialist in DSS, social worker, also in DSS, code enforcement officer, and solid waste. So that does not go through the general fund, that goes through the solid waste fund. The register of deeds, as we talked about last week, she, even with getting this other position, her revenues far exceed her expenditures. And then we put a financing accounting specialist, which will show up for 1 year. So I want to clarify, I think I'm going to take this time to clarify the SRO request from the sheriff, because I think there were a lot of questions about it over the weekend and since the article from last week. So there were 6 positions requested.
Let me
Yes, sir.
1 second. And while you're doing that, you may want to address the private school matters when you finish yours.
Okay. I was going to go ahead and tell you you had that, but want to make it perfectly clear, there are 16 positions in the department already. There is one SRO appointed to each school. We are only one of 4 school districts in the state out of 115 that have SROs at every school. So this budget does not cut any of the existing positions, and we're still having SROs at every school. So the 6 new positions were 2 SROs to be placed at Lee Senior and Southern Lee High School. So that would make 2 SROs at those schools. There was a request for 2 SROs at private schools, which we'll discuss in just a second. And then, as we discussed at the budget retreat, there was a desire to put county resource officers in our buildings. So there was 2 there, basically 1 for here and then 1 to float at other buildings to provide security in our buildings. So Whitney, you want to go ahead and talk about the private school request?
Sure. So the question was whether or not we could fund school resource officers at the 2 private schools, Grace Christian and Lee Christian. And I did do some research and reach out to the UNC School of Government as well. So under the North Carolina Constitution, we can only spend property tax revenues for expenditures that have a public purpose. We do have statutory authority under House Bill 491, which was passed in 2013. That gave us the the legislative authority to fund school resource officers for Lee County schools. And then, I had a copy of that in here, but it was passed in 2013, and it's for Lee County schools. And then the question is whether or not we can fund it for the 2 private schools and/or even allow them to do it and then contract and pay us back for the services. And the answer to that is no, we don't have any specific authority to do that. I went ahead and, when I reached out to school government, asked about charter schools as well, just because I knew that may be something that comes up in the future. And there could be an argument that's made for the charter schools because they are at least a public school, that a court may be able to find authority for the county to provide the school resource officers, but we would have to be reimbursed for their for the expenses for that reason. So.
And the sheriff's deputies can contract, to the private schools on their own time, and we do that, for other, private organizations. So, we've had that request from the hospital as well. So, when we say public service, public purpose, you have to remember that in the Constitution it says that we or the school system can operate a system of free public schools. And that's where that, gets tied up there as well. And then there are some constitutional issues about providing funding to religious organizations. So you have a lot of different things here that would probably stop us from being able to do that. Yes, sir?
I just want to make sure, and I'm pretty sure I heard you right, we are one of 4 counties in North Carolina that provide a SRO for each school.
That's right. And that was done back after Sandy Hook, that we felt that, we needed to have SROs not only at the high schools and the middle schools, but at every elementary school. And we also allocated them to the special schools, Floyd Knight, Bragg Street, Warren Williams. So, we put one at all of them.
The argument can be made of why the sheriff wants the 2 SROs at the high school due to the fact of the amount of size of the kids that are going there compared to the other schools.
Right.
And campus size.
Yeah, the campus size of the
population
senior
size.
probably would
So it makes sense that we go forward and look at one way to make that happen in this year's budget, I think. Since there's already precedent for that elsewhere.
Yes. In other states, based on size, typically it's 1,200, 1,300.
Mm-hmm.
They're putting a second SRO at those schools. So I did look that up. I did do some research on that. So it's kind of a standard, so that would be there. But budget's already up $3.8 million, so if we were to do that, we may want to look at something we don't want to do. that I put in there. So, and like I told some of the board members, late last week and over the weekend, it does not offend me if you change my budget. So if you want to change my budget, go ahead.
What is that figure for the additional, I guess with salary, training, car?
It's going to be 55,000 to 60,000 per position, and that's to that's to equip them and everything. Probably what we would do on the cars for the SROs, instead of turning some of them in, because we have new purchases, we would just basically keep.
Take the number we have now, 16, divided into amount of money allocated, it comes up to over $78,000 per SRO loss.
Well, you have some, you have some administrative costs that don't go directly into that one officer.
But I asked a question going forward, and I think I remember the answer, about a school safety committee that studies the safety in the schools.
We used to have a committee that did that, but we have not met in years.
Does the school board have one?
I don't know if they have one. But back then, when we made the decision to, it just wasn't a decision on the SROs. The county gave the school system almost $300,000 to improve technology for entranceways and cameras and that kind of stuff at the schools.
We had a committee to study the technology and, like I said, reach out to other systems to see what they're doing.
But as far as the SROs, we're ahead of the game. So we're not cutting anybody. So we're just not giving them the extra ones. And I felt like if I couldn't fund the 2 at the high schools, I couldn't do the 2 here for our buildings. I just had problems with that. So I just cut all those positions.
Wow.
And I will tell you, I talked to the sheriff and I explained to him our position. I told him I would, do everything I could to commit to getting them in play next year. And he understood our position because I had been telling him all along what our financial position was this year.
Well, I don't fault the sheriff for asking.
The sheriff's always going to ask.
We got to figure it
That's his
out.
job. That's right.
That's right.
His job is to ask for what he believes
We
he.
still have time to find it. That's right.
Because after tonight, it's not his, it's ours.
That's right. In about 10 minutes.
That's it.
If that.
I've already got a few ideas.
It's then yours. So general government is up 5.45%, or 527,000. You have major increases here is 100,000 for the health center, and then general services for addressing multiple building improvement projects, 147,000. So a lot of those projects that are in general services we try to treat as a one-time increase to use fund balance for, but it's becoming reoccurring. So it's quite a debate whether that's truly something we should be funding fund balance on, or whether we should be appropriating annual revenues to that. So in public safety, the increase is 4.49%, $474,000. The major increases here to the jail of 58,000, 911 communications of 40,000, emergency services of 40,000, and juvenile detention. Our numbers for juvenile detention continue to grow. So and that's something that the state sends us a bill for, and we do not have a say, so we just pay the bill. And then the sheriff is up $235,352, and most of that is personnel cost. So when we give a 2% COLA in their department now with the 80 people they have, and we're not getting any revenue from any other sources, that develops a big number in the sheriff's department.
How many employees do you say you have?
80.
And the big increase was when you took those SROs over compared to where you started, right?
Well, yep, you could look at it and you go, well, he's, I think it was 48 when he first took office. He's now at 80. You got the 16 SROs, and then you got the 4 animal control officers, so you got 20 right there, where he took over divisions that, we needed some help on. Animal control, I still thank him every day for taking that over. We had a real problem in this county with enforcement, where our enforcement officers were not being respected by the public. And as soon as we put the sheriff deputies out there on it and they got a badge and a gun, we didn't have any more problems.
I was averaging 1 call a week, and he took it over, the calls stopped.
Yes, and he's done a great job with it, so.
Gun.
Economic and physical development's up $709,000. Planning is up $13,000. That is mostly personnel costs. Conservation is up $25,000, and then economic development's up $510,000. Most of that is new incentive contracts that the board has signed, and the big one is Pfizer at $339,000.
Oh, there's a lot of money to fund things.
Human Services is up 3.42%, or a $478,000 increase. Health Department expenditures are up $43,911. Social Services expenditures are up $187,950. And a lot of that has to do with personnel costs and the 2 employees that we've put in there. And then Colts is up 145,000 additional vehicles. Remember, on the vehicles, we get 90% reimbursement on that. So we pay 10% per vehicle. So we only pay for the vehicles that actually end up qualifying based on mileage for June 30th. I'm going to skip over this next slide pretty fast because we talked about this quite a bit, nonprofit funding. Here's our debt service at $11,347,000. So debt service is half the increase this year. You're up $3.8 million. $1.9 million is debt service. So, and then here's the calendar for the rest of the way. The public hearing is on June 4th. A copy of the budget is in the clerk's office and will be at the library. The board does not have any additional work sessions scheduled, and budget adoption can occur at any time after the public hearing is held. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
You flip to the last slide.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'll pull up the last slide.
Exactly. Well, while we're on this, I know we're gonna talk about the calendar later, but, is there a feeling on the board? Do you wanna have another meeting, another workshop prior to the vote? Because you've got, Memorial Day is next Monday, so we won't be able to meet then. So, we've had a lot of discussion at our workshop at 5 with some things being brought up and some questions that we need to get answered. And then what the manager just brought up, sounds like there's some sway maybe going on, on some things. I'm just throwing it out there because, the next time we meet is going to be June 4th with the public hearing. So do you want to meet
We have to
before
vote on the
then?
budget by the,
18th. Well, by June 30th.
By
Right,
law, right?
right.
But the last time you're scheduled to meet is
Is the
June
18th.
18th.
So that's,
so
you know,
can we use that for the day when we vote on the budget?
yes, you can vote on it the 4th after the public hearing or the 18th. But my question though is, do you want to have another budget workshop where we,
I just
have
wasn't
more
maybe
discussion?
understanding that it was, we're gonna have it on, vote on the 4th, or we're just gonna have it on the 18th as a set schedule?
Depends on if somebody makes a motion on the 4th, I guess. If not,
I made a motion that we vote on the budget on the 18th, which gives us a little more
More
time to review.
time.
Since we till the 30th.
Do we necessarily need a motion for that?
I think you just have to have the motion
Yeah.
made before the 30th. But if you,
What was the motion? I didn't hear a motion.
That we wait and vote on the budget on the 18th and not do it on the 4th.
That would be a board policy
Right.
decision.
Right.
I
Any
don't wanna
discussion?
lock in on the 18th.
Think-
Yes, if we can come together on the budget before the 18th, and we have our public hearing, and we don't hear anything different than we've already heard. I'm not saying I won't vote on the 18th, I'm just saying I don't wanna lock in, as, I won't be voting for that, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'd rather have the option of doing it on the 4th if everything settles down.
Everything's in place.
I think one of the things the 4th will do for you is to force you to go back and take a look and see what you really want to do. For example, if you want to push, use the SRO, one SRO, if you wanted to push that through, then you'd have to go back and take a look at things that we can do without running the tab up.
Right. Okay. So
Sounds like we need a meeting.
that's what I'm hearing.
I
But
don't
we've got a
care either
motion on
way.
the floor though right now for,
That's all right, I withdraw my motion.
okay. Okay, so he's withdrawn the motion, so now we're back to my question. Do you want to have another workshop, and when can you do that?
Madam Clerk, what's our June 4th agenda looking like right now?
I asked for it to be light this afternoon,
Well,
but I
I was gonna say
had,
we could meet after the public hearing, after you get your comments. You could schedule at the end of the meeting a time to talk about the budget.
Well, we could do what we already do. We come in an hour early and talk about it, hold a public hearing,
Have discussion.
have discussion, and make a decision at that point. If we need more time, we certainly have more time.
should be able to do 5.
I like that.
I think that we can, if,
It makes sense after, because you know what kind of comments
Yeah,
you made.
right.
It's hard for him to come at 5.
no, I understand that, but it doesn't mean we can't look at the numbers for the rest of us and then take a break after the public hearing and go in and have a
Okay.
discussion.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, that's fine, okay, so we'll have, kind of revisit, hopefully some answers to the questions at 5 on the 4th?
If I-
At 5 on the 4th.
Certainly we need to, yeah,
We'll
to get that out of the way.
get all these answers that we've questioned today. And then we'll have the public hearing, and then we'll have discussion after that. Okay, and then we'll see where we are. We may vote, we may wait till the 18th. All right, we're good?
Thank you.
but we do need a motion to hold a public hearing.
Yes.
So move.
Okay, so the motion is to hold the public hearing for the fiscal year 18-19 budget on June 4th at 6 o'clock. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we've got that taken care of. Thank you. All right, we're jumping around a little bit, but that's okay.
We're gonna do one for the workshop,
Uh,
5 o'clock.
Yes. That's your motion. Okay, so, motion to have a final, hopefully, fiscal year 18-19 budget workshop at 5 o'clock on June 4th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Reed. All right, I'm sorry, Mr. Crumpton, are you good? Okay.
It's now the boards. I'm here to serve you, whatever y'all want to do.
I just making sure you were good on that item right there. Okay, moving on to old business, item A, the annual consideration of the contract with Saga. We've got Ms. Parrish, and that's page 91 of your agenda.
So the original contract was adopted in October of 2014, in which we entered into economic development services contract, and at that time it was Sanford Lee County Partnership for Prosperity, who is now doing business as Sanford Area Growth Alliance. If you recall, there are modifications and changes that were made to this contract this last fiscal year, and as part of that, based on the conversations that were had last year, each year the contract is to be reviewed by the board. I have updated the attachment A, addendum A, which is the current Sanford Area Growth Alliance Board of Directors. I received that from Saga, and they said they would update me after I think they changed their board of directors in June sometime. So it's just on for the board's consideration. Only thing would be to ask the board to also hold a public hearing on the June 4th for the expenditures in the amount of, I believe last week at the budget workshop session, Mr. Compton passed out the information from Saga and amounts, the $315,000 that they're requesting this year.
And in the contract that you all approved last year, it says that based on the county's level of funding, the Board of Commissioners will review this on an annual basis. So that's why, Ms. Parrish felt.
How much was their contract last year?
270,000. The request this year is 315.
So there's an extra 45?
Yes, sir.
And this action item, it is just to approve the contract. No,
No, right now I'm just giving the contract for the board to review. What I'd be asking just to hold the public hearing for the expenditures on June 4th, and then we can put it back on for a vote on June 4th.
And then the board will need to discuss the membership issue. How many board members they want to approach Saga about we should have based on our level of funding.
I think we shared that last time, didn't we? Is there legal something different this time compared to last time?
this is
Funding-
just an
I'm reading from her
extension.
letter. The funding allows for continued marketing efforts from DCI, the marketing firm they hired. The funding maintains existing industry position, and the funding level also expects an increase in chamber revenue. So it was less, actually they said in the letter it was less than what they had put in their expected budget for last year. Remember when they gave you the 5-year budget at the budget workshop last year? So the additional, they felt that they would be getting from the public would be 280,000 in the coming year, and they've asked for 45 from us and 30, so it's 75. So it's a considerable amount of a decrease from what they were looking for.
And didn't they ask some more from the city as well?
Yes, they asked for 30 from the city.
Any more questions or discussions? So what,
That's it? Well, this one I wrote on, this one just.
so what motion?
Just to hold a public hearing on the expenditures.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get clear on.
And then we'll hold, if the board would so chooses, we'll hold that on June 4th along with the other public hearings. And then if the board wants to make any changes, they can direct me as such. But because of the contract, I felt like it was to bring it back in front of the board to review, so.
Okay.
So I move to hold a public hearing on June 4th to revisit the Saga contract.
Saga funding.
Saga funding, excuse me.
Okay. Any questions or discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. All right, item B, consideration of Lee County's participation in the opioid litigation. Ms. Parrish, and this was the monster from page 97,
Yes.
326.
I apologize, but it
No,
was.
no.
And that's not and that wasn't everything that they
I-
submitted.
I know, yeah.
So, at the April 16th board meeting, this board did vote to authorize the staff to issue a request for information, which is also included in the first part of your package, for a special litigation involving the opioid litigation. As such, 2 firms submitted their proposals. I've been in contact with Mike Fuller on behalf of the McHuff Fuller law firm, and then Julie Bond on behalf of the Simmons Hanley Conroy law firm. The proposal responses have been attached. Now, there was in the McHuff Fuller, they're also considered the Baron Budd law firm. They have filed suit on behalf of Buncombe County. So in the email, they also sent me Buncombe County's complaint, but it's I think around 167 pages. And they also sent a proposed Lee County complaint, which was about the same amount of pages. So I didn't include that in the agenda packages, but they're available if you'd like me to email them to you or come to my office or the Madam Clerk's office and to review. And then I also included all the information from the Simmons Hanley Conroy law firms. At this point, I've just had some conversations with the 2 firms, and what I have indicated to them that once we received their information, I believe what the best thing to do would be to ask them to hold presentations in front of the board, so the board can hear their litigation strategies, some of what they perceive. They can kind of sell themselves and talk about the way they plan on handling the litigation to the board if the board is interested in pursuing filing suit and litigation. So I have thought about it would probably be good to, both of these law firms are out of state. One is coming from, I think they're from like Wisconsin and Mississippi and West Virginia, and the other group is from Wisconsin, I believe. Wisconsin, yeah. So Wisconsin. So to coordinate all that, I felt like what the best thing to do would be to have a presentation made either in July or August, depending on what the board may want to do, just to have enough time to get them prepared and get them down here.
It's what other boards have done.
Yeah,
It's
I know
kind of like the
Alan-
final
Is there a
step.
time frame on the presentation? You say you've got half an hour, you say you have
We
20
can do that. I went back and looked at Alamance, and they didn't.
I would think that we would probably give them 15 minutes and then
Yeah.
questioning, because there's a lot of questions. Because we've met with both of them, and we probably spent most of our time asking questions after they gave us their initial, here's what we do, here's how the legal proceedings would go forward as we see it. And then it just opens up a host of questions. So I would probably limit them to a 15-minute presentation, because your questions will probably take up another 15 minutes for each group.
Here's a concern that I have, and I don't know the answer, maybe someone here does. Do you know if these 2 firms have made contact with any law firm here in Lee County?
Yeah, so the Mike Fuller, the McHuff Fuller, Baron Budd, not who are there, they have associated with Chip Post, and I believe his information is in the packet of information.
Okay.
The other group, Simmons Hanley Conroy, they have, I know I believe it was Alamance County when they made the presentation, they have associated with Janet Ward Black. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with her. I think she's based, when I was in school in Greensboro, so the Piedmont area, but she does a lot of federal litigation. When I contacted them to get their stuff, they said they were also open to local counsel, so that's just something that I think that the board may want to ask, or I can ask.
I would rather for you, I'm speaking for myself, but I'd rather for you to go ahead and ask, because we've got people here, you've already listed one that have interest in it. There may be others who have an interest, and if they're not interested in using our local firms to be involved, I'm not interested in hearing from them.
I believe they would be.
That's fine,
Yeah.
but they gotta prove it.
Yeah.
You just can't tell me you gotta make contact with somebody locally, so that we'll know who we're dealing with.
Okay.
I just soon hear from Mr. Post and his firm to come in. They're already on the ticket with somebody. I just soon have them come as to have the other people come, whoever they're associated with. I don't recall that. But if the other firm is not interested in the Lee County firm, then I'm not interested in it.
Yeah, I think they would be from our discussion with them, they called when I made contact
That's
with
fine.
them, but I don't know who.
They gotta prove it.
Okay. Fair enough.
So, I guess, what's being asked is, the pleasure of the board as far as having them present. I just felt like it would be better for the board as a whole to hear the proposals, rather than staff pick one.
Or even a subcommittee.
Right.
so, all board.
Okay, so just, we'll find out about the local
Well,
representation.
and ask Attorney Post if they would mind coming and give a presentation to us.
I feel like you would, because and I don't know if everybody has, but I've already been, given a packet by
Right.
Attorney Post. And-
And I think it's similar to what was provided.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think all of them.
Yeah, so
Yeah, let's.
I'd a whole lot rather
Get
work with
that.
somebody local.
Okay. I still feel like it might be a good idea to just wait until after we get through the budget
I'm
season.
fine. I
Okay.
just don't have.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd rather have.
July or August. Okay. Just from a scheduling standpoint, again, get back on the calendar for a minute. Okay. All right, well, I don't guess we really need a vote for that. We'll just get the presentations. Okay? All right. The new item we added was item C, and we do need a motion and a vote for this, to consider the fire district tax, to conduct a public hearing. And again, we proposed June 4th, so that we can just get all the public hearings done that day, budget related, and also to save us some money advertising at one time. So is there a motion to hold the fire district?
So moved.
Ta-
So moved, yes.
Okay, any discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye, okay. Thank you. We'll have that on the 4th as well. All right, moving on. New business. Item A, request for renewal of contract for inmate labor with North Carolina Department of Public Safety, Mr. Spivey. Sorry, it's taking so long. Good
Yeah,
evening.
no, that's no problem whatsoever. I totally understand. Good afternoon. I'd like to come tonight request this is for the 2018-2019 budget year. It begins in July for the North Carolina Department of Public Safety Prison Division that we renew our contract with the inmates that we use in our grounds division.
I move that we renew the contract as presented by Mr. Spivey to utilize the inmate labor for grounds division.
Okay, any questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay,
Thank you so
you,
much.
Mr. Spivey. Thank you. Have a good evening. Appreciate you helping us with that logistics problem as well. Okay, consideration of the summer meeting schedule, that's on page 338. And that's something that the clerk and I were talking about. Ali, when I start talking to different people and we start setting meeting schedules and all of a sudden the next meeting is June, we realize that, we need to look at our summer schedule. As
This looks almost like the same as last year, like the second ones you're picking. Is that right?
Yeah, just as a reminder, we typically just meet once in July, August, and September. The one conflict that I talked over with the clerk is Monday, July the 16th, is also during the NACO conference. I don't know if anybody is going. I plan on going, so we have a voting delegate. And just to remind everybody, we do have North Carolina Commissioner Ray Jeffers from Person County. He is up for election for second vice president, which means in a couple of years he'll be president of NACO. And to have a North Carolina commissioner be president of NACO is a very important thing for us. He has 3 other people running for that position, but based on what happened just in some of the politicking going on when we were at NACO in Washington back in February. It really is between him and one other person, the way it looks, and he really looks like he's got a good chance at it. So I would encourage some of the other commissioners to go, if possible, just to help in that effort. So I didn't know if the board would consider moving it to the 17th or even moving it to the 23rd, since we won't meet again until the 20th of August. I don't know. It's just, I'm just throwing it out there. I didn't know how many would want to go to NACO, because, you know. Oh, I know. Don't.
It's in Nashville, Tennessee, by the way.
Oh, well, yeah.
Forgot to say that. You know. Country music
My
fan?
only problem
Country
is I
music fan?
can't, it's going to take me 2 days to get there by train. I just, I can't. Anyway.
23rd's fine.
Move it to the 23rd, it's okay? Okay, all right, well, 23rd July. We probably need to
We
meet.
do need to meet once.
Yes. Okay, all right, well, I appreciate that. And then please, look at your calendars, because they're, especially, you know, school safety and the mental health issues are gonna be really big at this conference. We talked a lot about it when we were in DC, and I think in light of what's happened since we met in DC, I think it's,
What are you gonna do about August and September? What day in?
well, you know, we had August the 20th and then September the 17th were the proposed. So then you'd have July 23rd, August the 20th, and September the 17th. That's spread out pretty evenly, okay? All right, and hopefully nothing
Need a
will happen.
motion on that?
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, so the motion is to have the summer meetings July 23rd, August 20th, and September 17th. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And look at your calendars, and if you're interested in going, look at the agenda and the classes and stuff. It is a good thing to attend, especially with things going on. Our clerical, I serve on a committee, so I'll have to go a day early, but it usually is just like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Yep. All right. Okay, moving along to B. I've done that, sorry. C, request for approval of joint applications from Lee County Board of Education for lottery funds. Ms. Mentor, oh, hey. You
Sorry.
snuck up there.
Good evening.
Good evening.
On page 345 of your agenda, you have the first of the 2 lottery applications that were received from the Lee County School Board and approved by them. It's $420,000 for East Lee renovations and another $420,000 for West Lee renovations. As you know, that these applications have to be approved by both boards. And at this point in time, if you look on page 343, you will see that sitting in the lottery fund at the state level is $1,095,564 at this time that's unallocated for Lee County. So there are enough funds to go ahead if the state approves these. You will see that I've noted on the agenda abstract that we have $685,000 in our budget this year, and we have another $685,000 in next year. They won't spend all of this in either year, but so one year or the other may end up with a budget amendment adjustment to account for it if it's all approved. But we'll look at the spending beforehand. And of course, we do not give them the money until they've spent the money.
Okay. Any questions?
What are they fixing this time?
This goes along with part of what they have in their capital improvements program. I believe, if I remember correctly, it's outside doors with card access, new restroom partitions, LED lighting in classrooms and hallways, painting throughout, and ceiling replacement. It's part of, I think it's a $2.5 million project they have in the CIP at each school. So they're going ahead and breaking it down into smaller segments.
They are in dire need.
East and West Middle School.
In dire need. No.
Every year.
Yeah. Okay, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Okay, any more questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, page 347, again with Ms. Mentor, request for extension of banking services contract with First Citizens.
Yes, when we went out for RFPs 5 years ago, we only received 2 proposals from local banks for our banking services. So our time was running out on that 5-year agreement, and so we had reached out to First Citizens hoping to get anywhere from a 2 to 5 year extension, and what they came back with was a 1-year potential extension with a rate adjustment, which is understandable after 5 years. We've reviewed the rates that they've proposed, and we're looking at an average based on our volume peaking at different times of about $35 per month. We feel like we can cover that increase in what we've put in our budget for next year. So we're asking that you agree to the 1-year extension with First Citizens Bank, and we will be going out for requests for proposals next spring.
Okay,
Move to approve.
okay, motion to approve. Any questions or comments, discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Item E, consideration of courthouse complex renovations capital project budget.
Yes, as you know, we just recently sold the limited obligation bonds, and that was included not only the Wicker School project, but the courthouse and park projects. So I'm bringing before you proposed courthouse complex renovations budget based off preliminary numbers we have from the consultant,
Okay.
and asking for your approval of that on page 352.
Any questions? Again, this is just to move ahead with the courthouse complex.
Move to approve.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. All right. Consideration of park improvement project budget ordinance. Ms. Mentor.
And same thing as the courthouse, we just need to get a project ordinance in place so that we can start spending that money once we are ready to move ahead with those projects. And the estimates there, again, are based on preliminary numbers from our consultants. And I also ask that you approve the ordinance on page 354.
Do a motion.
Move to approve.
Okay, any more questions or discussion? Again, this is just moving forward with the park improvements based on the bond sale. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. And just, we can't say it enough, but let's see, our meeting is March 29th at 6 to, right? And you'll say it again later. May 29th at 6 to review the park plan?
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't that right? Okay. We'll remind everybody.
In the
again at
Gordon
the end.
Wicker Room.
In the Gordon Wicker Room, right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then I guess this next one is Miss Parrish on the utility easement for WB Wicker. Is that
That,
correct?
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's added on. It's at your seat
Right.
somewhere in all of your
In all of our
items.
stuff.
But we were approached by I actually think we got this with the school board last week after the agendas had gone out. But we have been in contacted by the Lee County Schools in reference to a utility easement at the WB Wicker School. The Board of Education has already approved it, and they have signed it as lessee. And at this point, we're just asking to authorize the chair to sign it on behalf of, since we own this property.
And this is for Duke Energy, just moving, easement for power lines, that kind of thing. Okay, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, and then also the transfer of the property with Kiwanis Children's Park.
Yes, ma'am. At Kiwanis Children's Park, you'll see the county owns all of the parcels, or the big parcel out there, except for the one little parcel that's outlined. This is again at your seat, and all of your information. But it's a parcel there that the city owns that the J.C. Hut used to be on. The J.C. Hut has since been demolished. But at their last meeting, I believe last week, they went ahead and voted to deed that parcel to the county, so just to make it whole, so we own all of it. So this time, just asking the county to agree to accept the parcel.
And this is just making the Greenway project sort of a trade-off.
Yes, that area right there has access to water and sewer. And so there's discussion of moving the bathhouse up to that area and basically establishing a trailhead for the Greenway right there.
Which would be really
It's a nice,
where the old Jesse's stuff is.
nice facility right there.
Any questions or discussion on that? Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, all right, moving right along to the manager's report, and we'll do the financial report first with Ms. Mincher. Up again?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Could have gone to that while you were up there.
That's
Sorry.
okay. Attached to you, you should find on page 350, starting on page 356, the monthly financial report for April 2018. As I always continuously remind you, we run 3 months behind on sales tax. Our tax collections as a percentage of budget at this point are 97.42%. In reviewing expenditures, our target's 83.33. Juvenile detention is at 87.39. However, you just approved a budget amendment in May, so it will finally show up next report. And then emergency medical services is 85.43 due to the contribution you made for an ambulance purchase there. Sales tax reports are also attached through February 2018 collections. You will see that we did see a drop in our sales tax collections in the month of February. It is actually the lowest month we've had in 2 years, since February 2 years ago. Part of this is due to some refunds that were requested, but there was also a trend across the state for sales tax collections to be down in February. So with the weather and the short month, we feel like that's attributable to it, so we're anxiously waiting the next round of numbers to hopefully go back up. Even with that, we're still in line with our projections for the year and our budget, and our growth is still around 5% overall for the county-wide sales taxes, or county sales taxes. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, county manager's monthly report.
Yes, ma'am. Update on Poland Road water construction. The water lines are well underway. Sand Hills Contractors has completed the installation of a new 6-inch line on both Old Colon Road and Burchard Road. That was a big deal, and it did pass inspection. I had right here that was getting ready to be inspected, and it was inspected. I talked to Paul Weeks. It has passed, so now they're extending the lateral lines to the residences, and they are hoping to have that completed in the next 3 weeks.
Wow.
So that project has moved along pretty quickly once they got started.
On schedule.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They're doing it. Got started a little late because they're trying to get all the right-of-way acquisitions, all that kind of stuff. That took a little bit longer, but they have made up for it and are going pretty quickly. I wrote this report before they canceled the groundbreaking at the Wicker School on the 17th, so I apologize for that. And that's also the reason you have 2 sheets in there, is we tried to substitute a second sheet to come up with a new date there. But I was quite surprised. I went over there for a meeting to talk about utilities and other things, and to walk through the building just to see what we had just purchased. And American South was out there putting up the fence. They had already taken out all the bleachers in the gymnasium, and the floor was gone in the gymnasium, and I was stunned what had all transpired. So the fence up now, and they are moving forward. So obviously Parks and Recreation's not using the Wicker Gym anymore. So they've we're working out a deal with them right now to use Tramway for volleyball and basketball endeavors coming up. So the temporary perimeter has been set up, and the CCC's dental programs continues to operate there, and will operate there till the last week of July, and hopefully the first week of August everything will be vacated and the entire site will be turned over to the Board of Education, and we won't be paying utility bills or anything out there anymore. So Pretty exciting, quick work out there. The courthouse renovations, I've been working with the designer the last week on some preliminary ideas that they had. We're about 45, 60 days behind there because of an issue that came up with the architect, and they're working to try to get us back on track. So I expect probably a report at the June 18th meeting, and then we'll hold meetings with the departments and the agencies around the courthouse to talk about the preliminary plan. Parks and Recreation master plans will be revealed next Tuesday night at 6:00 p.m. in the Gordon Wicker Room. We'll have master plans for the Kiwanis Children's Park, O.T. Sloan, Horton, and Temple. So what they'll do in there is they'll set each park up at its own table, and there'll be staff and designers there to discuss what's going on and take surveys from the public for comments, kind of like what we did at the land use planning meetings around the county to see what is going on.
John, excuse
Yes,
me
ma'am.
just a minute. Are we, is Jamie gonna tweet that out and put it on, you know?
She has
Facebook?
been. There's
Okay.
been some stuff going out already about that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And same thing with the opioid meeting on Thursday. She's been tweeting and doing whatever they do. I don't, you know, it's what they get paid to do, is they do all that stuff and take care of that. But I know Heath and Ashley have been advertising it quite a bit this Thursday. We'll talk about that in just a minute.
Excuse
But-
me, back
yes, sir.
up to courthouse renovation.
Yes, sir.
Did the local attorneys lose their spot in this renovation? You know, they had an area where they would gather.
The law library?
I guess that's what they call it.
Yes, sir. We have a law library. It's not the lawyer's lounge, as they keep telling me, but it is by statute the law library. And no, they may lose it there, but it has been relocated, and it still has bathroom access in that room and has actually more space than they currently have if the preliminary plan goes forward. So they will be happy, I hope, based on conversations that I had with them at lunch at Davidson's. So I think they'll be happy.
You got that, Madam Clerk?
Maybe they'll be happy. I don't know. It's a big group.
Hey, more space.
It's a big group, and they have a lot of opinions. So
They really do. Thank you.
tough group. So just to update on the bonds, you know, we closed on May 9th. I can't tell you all how great the team worked together with Lisa's guidance. And like I said before, we came out with an excellent average interest rate of 3.17%. We started at 5%. Then the week before the sale, we predicted 3.41 and still beat that. So pretty good deal. And then you know, we're beginning full bond payments right off the bat per the LGC's guidance, and which we agreed with, to reduce the principal quickly, so that if we had to borrow money again in 3 to 5 years, we could do it within the existing tax rate.
Didn't they use you as a training model?
They did. The chairman and I showed up a little early for the meeting, and they were in there having a workshop with new members, and they used our borrowing as a model for the new board members, talking about how well the LGC and the county staff are supposed to work together, and how things are supposed to come to them, and how they were supposed to look. So yes, it was quite a surprise, because we walked in there and they were talking about us, and the meeting wasn't supposed to start for another 15 minutes. So, anyway.
A good surprise.
It was a very good surprise.
Congratulations.
Yes, so Miss Mentor missed it. I wish she would have been there to see it, because she's been excited.
Yeah.
So tomorrow, Broadway Town Hall ribbon cutting at 4 o'clock. On the 24th at 10:30 a.m. is the Wicker School groundbreaking ceremony. Also on the 24th is the Opioid Community Forum at the McSwain Center at 6 o'clock. On May 29th is the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting. at 5 o'clock here in the Wicker Room in the Government Center. May 30th is County Assembly Day with the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners in Raleigh. That's an all-day event. Our next meeting is June 4th. And then June 14th is the Cooperative Extension Report to the People at 5:30 at the McSwain Center. So June 18th is the second meeting date in June. Madam Chairman, that is it for me.
Busy 2 weeks. All right. Any questions or anything for the manager? Okay. Commissioners' comments?
Just thank everyone for coming out tonight, especially those that made presentations tonight. Very good, very thorough, and good seeing you.
Just want everybody just to keep your eyes and ears open, especially with the kids. You know, there's obviously we had another tragedy recently, and our heart goes out to the family. So you know, kids do have stresses and they do have needs, and just be aware, even when our life is hectic.
Good point.
That's all I can think.
Go Team Britt, that's all I got.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, how many of you made it out to the ribbon cutting at the CCCC? But if you didn't, I'll tell you, Lee County is blossoming. We got a lot of good things going on. And trash, I'm not going to talk a lot about trash tonight. I think I see an improvement around the county. So I hope the citizens have taken an interest in it, and I feel like they have, because I see people picking up trash on the road in front of their homes, you know, where people throw it out. So just keep moving forward.
Commissioner Swan? Commissioner Reeves?
I just got one, Parks and Recreation and the school system. I know we've talked about this, I have many times, about the use of the gymnasium over the course of the summer and during the regular year. When they're vacant, we need to find a way to make them available for some of these kids in different areas. And one reason I raise the concern is, and I really don't know the name of the group, but the Raynard Jones has a group of kids, about 60, 65 kids that he does music with. And they're trying to find a location. They were over at the Wicker School at one point. And I tell you, that contractor has taken over that property. He makes it clear. This is mine. And he wasn't interested in anybody coming to use it. So I spoke with a member of the Board of Education to inquire about what it will take to make use of these gymnasiums.
Mm-hmm.
If it means we have to provide, what, do you know what we have to do?
I think we have to provide, if we open it, we have to provide supervision as part of the joint use agreement.
Then we ought to be able to look at our recreation staff and give flex hours so that some of these gyms can be better utilized.
You said they were at the Wicker prior,
Yes.
and we were supervising that?
No, but that's because it was,
Brick Capital
it was under Brick Capital doing
was
that.
doing the supervision.
Yeah. And so now we don't have another area that I'm aware of that they can move into. You know, this is a fantastic program. They had A&T University came down a couple of weeks or a month ago and worked with them. They were so impressed with these children that they're putting on another scheduled return, and some of them are even being considered for scholarship, some of the older kids. So
Worst case scenario, this is short term until that auditorium gets back up.
yes, that would be the case. So
That sounds, music is powerful.
Yes. And Robert, you know, just, I mean, that's music, so, you know, we could still do it through Parks and Rec.
Right.
But I wonder too, I mean, you know, like to Andre's point, you know, the more we can provide to our young people, you know, to that, yeah, as an outlet, as support, just to belong to something, I think is so important. Have we, I mean, you know, we've got churches in the area too. I wonder, you know, that would maybe let a group like that use the sanctuary and their piano and stage. And I mean, do you know if he's talked to any? I mean, I'm just, you know, throwing it out there in case.
You know, sometimes churches get very particular.
I understand. I do.
I don't know all the music they play, but
I
I
understand.
don't think it's all Christian music.
They have to have those instruments tuned every now and then. though.
Hey, or maybe the temple.
Sometimes.
Maybe the temple too, you know. But I don't know how their summer schedule is. I know they have the children's, yeah, conservatory and stuff, so.
That's a big crowd though.
Yeah.
You said 40 to 60, right?
Yeah, he got at least 60. He's been turning kids away because they don't have
Yeah, that's a
room.
Well,
big crowd.
McLeod Auditorium.
Well, that's what I'm just saying.
yeah.
We've got the
Okay.
buildings,
Yeah,
we
we
ought
do.
to make better use of them.
When they're
and have some of
empty.
these kids get off.
When they're empty, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All righty. Well, I just want to thank everybody for, you know, everything you do. Budget time is always tough. You know, I think most of us would like to grant most of the requests of our departments. I really do. But, you know, we only have a certain amount of money that we can spend. And it's not our money. It's the taxpayers' money. So, just to remind everybody, I had somebody call me and say, well, you need to take your money. And I said, no, it's not my money. it's the taxpayers' money. So it is a responsibility I don't think any of us up here take lightly. And we just want to be fair, and we want to meet the needs of our citizens. And we're going to work hard. Really hard. I know everybody on this board will the next month, and we'll get it done. So that's all I have to say. Just be safe and try to stay cool. And we've got graduations and stuff coming up, so look forward to that as well. But we'll be meeting before that, I think. So at this time, call on Dot.
Madam Chair, I move that we go into closed session per North Carolina General Statute, number 143, 318, 11, parentheses A, parentheses 6, to discuss a personnel matter.
Okay, all right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we're now in closed session. Thank you.